I'm breaking. Nice to officially meet you. Yes. I know we've met through wrestling. My husband coaches.
Yeah, yeah. I recognized your name and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's from that.
From the tree.
I didn't even have to reply because I was thinking the exact same thing.
I went straight to the point. And do what? It's like,
It was like, well, it was like over there. Thanks for that email from him. He and Whitney are both out tonight. So.
Who else?
Steve and Whitney.
Okay, thank you.
The only two I've heard from.
Clint is not coming.
He's not?
I overheard him in conversation at basketball.
Who else do we have?
We don't have enough
Steve,
people.
Tyler.
Tyler.
I don't know about Tyler. But he's usually not this late.
Latest casualty of COVID. No face recognition.
Oh, yeah.
Take your mask off while you.
Maybe people just didn't want to say that.
Yeah, it could be.
Chris, please check the spelling of your name.
it's correct.
We have to wait till we have 5, right?
I believe we do, yeah. What I would, another option here, Brittany, is to just not call it to order, not have an official meeting, but we can go through the new business items, we would not have agenda or minutes. So
Okay.
that is not an option. Those can always be pushed off until the next meeting.
Because Steve can't come. It
No.
has to be just board.
Board members, correct.
Who can't? Oh, Steve.
Yeah.
When we're going to new business?
Well, I just text Tyler to see if he was coming.
Him and Whitney texted. Or
If they're not coming?
correct.
Correct.
And then you overheard Clint say he's not.
Yeah.
So it's just him. Talking about registration? Oh,
I don't know where we're at. A little bit. So, I don't know. That's.
I just was wondering about the soccer serving as
I think that's one of the things we talk about. That don't think about it.
he said we could go to
assume Tyler's probably not coming, he's usually not late, so.
Why don't we just do an official meeting then? What we'll do is, we won't have any action taken, but we can go through the, new business items and any discussion that the board would like to have tonight. So first on that agenda, under new business is the softball field project. I'll actually loop in with that Pedal Pals, the pool, and West Evergreen. Those are all 4 projects that we're working on yet, in 2021. So the softball field project, the excavation is pretty much complete. We are hoping to be able to get some regrading done before the snow started falling, but that didn't happen. So I think right away in the spring we're going to get on that and figure out what we need to be at for that base grade. And then we've got all the acre line that we saved from the old field as well as the new that we brought in. So that'll be a right away in the spring project. Pedal Pals Park, we've got the concept plan from Stockwell, and I think overall very much in agreement with that direction. The first item is going to be getting in some rock, landscape rock, along the sidewalk that comes from Main Street up towards the pool. So it's an east-west sidewalk, just runs straight up and then curves toward the pool as we get up there.
Can we see the plans for the new?
Yeah, I'll get into some discussion. I'll see if I can find them on here.
Okay.
I think David emailed them to me, and I can throw them up there. It's going to make use of existing green space and trees. We will lose a couple of trees that are old and diseased and frankly need to come down. We're also going to clean out those flower beds and some of those will be moved. So we'd like to give some of the historical significance of those plants, salvage as much of them as possible, and transplant them if we can. The old bell tower will also probably be a prominent piece of this. That's sitting behind the city park, the city street shop right now. I don't remember that was sitting along Park Drive, but we had to remove it when we started on the pool project.
Was it ever, there was some discussion about talking with the Historical Society and what they would like to see with the arch?
Yeah, I think Alderman Wolf has been having those discussions. He's kind of led the effort. I can't say that I've had any of those discussions, but I can follow up with him and see if he's had that.
That's fine, I was just curious if you knew what happened with that.
And that West Evergreen Park, obviously the issue there is getting, we got the Wellmark Foundation grant last year for that project. That's going to have a new playground as well as 2 sand volleyball courts and a new sign. There's been some discussion, just kind of off the side, should we do this kind of discussion on parking in the area? It's a gravel street, we don't have a great parking system, parking area down there, and they want to be exploring some options there in the near future. I think, for the time being, wait and see what use looks like and what kind of problem we have there, and then we can go from there.
What
Is
was-
it on the master plan to pave that street? Is it 6th, 5th?
4th. The plan is to pave all gravel streets in town as soon as we possibly can.
I'm just thinking if that street, when it gets paved, I don't know how far in advance that would be, but if we had parking much like we do on Main Street, rather than having it on Cleveland where it's a lot faster traffic.
Yeah, yeah. I think we could probably fit some day parking in there relatively easily, right along the north side of West 4. When we do that, I think that'll certainly be an option, but I think it'll be quite a ways down the road, given the need for some infrastructure repair underneath the street. So we know that we need to do some work on the sanitary sewer underneath there.
So it was playground equipment, 2 sand volleyball courts, and what was the other thing?
A new park sign.
Okay.
And do we know when that's going to, will it start in the spring? Like the construction, I don't know if you want to call it construction,
Yeah,
renovations?
Really, as soon as we can get started on it in the spring, I think is when we'll be looking at it.
And then
It depends on how much snow we get, obviously, but if we firm up relatively quickly this spring, no problem.
And then the layout, the selection of the equipment, the sign and the design and all of that, is that this board?
It can be, I think there's certainly advisory component to that.
I think I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I think it would be nice to at least review the layout and have a hand in selecting the playground equipment and, the sign and the design and all of that.
What I'll do is get that on the agenda, probably for February or March,
Okay.
more likely March, to have some ideas on there.
Punishment's over.
Is he walking home?
We're back at our church, so you can right there now.
Oh.
I'm down to believe it.
What am I missing there? I think that's all of them.
So that's all for softball, you said?
That's all for softball field, park improvements is what I would call it.
Do we, on that softball field project, do we have enough agri line to use all new agri line there?
Probably.
Because I would go back and look at that old stuff and it just isn't worth it.
Yeah, it's got a
It's
lot,
exceeded its lifespan.
it's got a lot of junk in it, and, I think it would make sense for us to use the new stuff first. And if the old stuff is beyond its life, then we find an alternate place for it, no problem.
Do you want to move on, maybe?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I was supposed to look up on, the Bell Park, yeah. Let me add one more thing, just as I'm looking this up, there's a few other things that I remember. There's been some discussion on wanting some improvements at the tennis courts as well, the last few months. So I think, who's the coach? Taking Plank. There's some interest in jointly pursuing some grants with the school district, to improve those courts, potentially even move them, to a better location, so. We haven't gone too far down that road, just, just a shared interest in improving the playing surface. And getting them to a point where they can actually, host, matches.
What would we need to do for them to host matches? I mean, seating, obviously.
They need 4 courts for the host.
So we'd have to go quite a bit
Did you
to
say
the west.
To the west, yeah. There's some existing uses already over there to the west that we'd have to,
We'd have to move the Gaga pit.
yes.
I think that Gaga pit was originally supposed to be in a different location.
Oh, really?
It was supposed to be by the big band, or by the big, in the big park where the pink or the red playground equipment is, but near the big picnic shelter.
Oh,
Like near Park Drive. To
maybe
the
get
east.
why it didn't end up there.
I don't know, I think that's what was approved. I don't know what, and then construction, we must have just been miscommunication, not with us in council, but I think with council and the person who constructed it.
That's just sand and green treated lumber, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else to that. Well, if we needed to move, it wouldn't take much.
Okay.
Is that round?
Yeah, so
It was a Boy Scout, I don't know what
Yeah,
that
It
was.
was an Eagle
Eagle
Scout.
Scout project.
Now I think there's some like, isn't there a new one that went up?
Oh yeah, the hammocks, where are those? Those are over there
Those are
too.
close to a campground. I
Okay.
don't know that those was,
So we'd have room.
Well, I think those are just hugging trees, aren't they?
yeah.
So if we move the tennis courts to the west, is there still plenty of seating, like for the band shell when people come to, that's just one issue I can see.
I think there's enough seating. What I worry about is parking. There's a long established tradition of just taking your car up on the grass and parking there. And I think that's something that we have to, figure out a better solution to.
Yeah.
parking all around the park is a challenge.
Right.
When we have baseball tournaments, stuff going on in the park otherwise, whatever it might be, parking is simply a challenge when it comes to high attendance events in our central park.
It would help when that parking lot becomes the parking lot again, like the summer, the pool parking lot
Yes,
was.
that will help.
Yeah.
I know there was some talk at one point about just shutting down Park Drive too, creating more parking.
So what would you close it off and make it more pedestrian park?
You'd lose parking there.
And if you have the right, if you have ADA access in the right places, that could work.
So you wouldn't have any parking at Park Drive, you couldn't drive it there?
You couldn't drive, I believe it was from like, you know where those handicap parking spots are? Just kind of like around that corner, and then expanding some of it, you know, so it's
All
all
to the south.
parking.
We'd have a significant sidewalk improvements and
Yeah.
placements of sidewalks for handicap accessible. If we lost that whole street.
But you wouldn't need sidewalk, I mean, the street would still be there, people would still be able to walk on it, just closing it to traffic.
I see. Has there ever been a discussion about when there is a sizable parking lot right by the park shop? Like we have to be careful how we get it just so we can get camper traffic in and out, but it would make sense to have some parking there. It's not
It's
where
pretty
we
full
have
during the
problem.
summer, like,
It's older days.
it's completely full when there's space, people just park
Softball, sure,
anywhere in there.
softball, yeah.
They park all the way up to the, shed,
Yeah.
to the city shop,
Okay.
and around the skateboard park and stuff.
Right.
I think really expanding, I mean, the pool will help, but expanding to the south by where we have soccer now, creating parking over there at the old football field, the old practice football field,
That was the varsity football.
That was the football field.
the football field. Okay.
How about the parking lot?
Not many games going on, but it was full.
Like the school, you know, that
You're
parking lot
good,
that,
Phil.
I don't know who has what part of that lot, but that would create a lot of parking.
Like on the north side of the pool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we vacated that for the most part this year, but what is the status of that and us?
The city owns that parking lot now.
But I mean, the status of like their construction equipment and are we
The
gonna?
only two things there yet left are those two semi-trailers. I would expect them out before.
And then any repair plans for us on our end?
Yeah, we applied for the state Game Fish and Parks grant, the natural resources, I think
Yeah.
the name of it. We applied for that. I don't know how likely it is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other projects, including the campus pool, that are, quite frankly, they're easier things to fund. But we were happy with how that milled asphalt held up this summer, and we'll probably just do that until we do obtain the funds necessary to pave that whole thing.
And there were fence stakes up, were they expanding that fence
Yes,
to the south?
yep, that fence is being bumped out.
I didn't know that was happening already,
And
but
I would welcome discussion on what we want to do there. Do we want concrete, do we want grass, do we want turf? Right now, I'm leaning strongly towards just concrete.
Where are we talking now, sorry?
The southeast part of the.
Where you're bumping the,
Yep.
oh yeah, I think so
More
too.
chairs and stuff.
Yeah, with more chairs.
The grass is popular. It actually looked great a week after we pulled the pool, but it really takes a beating all summer long. So, and somebody promised to mow inside the fence, but that never happened, so.
no idea what you're talking about.
Do we,
That grass was very popular. Everybody thought that was the dumbest thing to have grass, and it was the most popular
It
surface.
was tough, but it was very.
do we have funds to get more chairs and stuff?
Yeah, I don't see any issue there. No.
I think we saw it a lot in storage, didn't we? There were some that were not used, but we didn't take them all out because of COVID.
Right, I remember right, there were some in the back of the park shop that we decided not to spray off and get ready. And that's when we asked people to bring their own to kind of limit
Yeah.
Yeah.
transmissions, so
Nice.
it seems like such a long time ago.
Yeah.
How many do you think you need?
If you open that whole
Capacity is-
space, you could do probably 3 rows.
Yeah.
So I would say 15 at least, don't you think?
And how many do we have? Does anybody know?
I don't know. I can't remember what the
Couple
number was.
dozen maybe.
So you think we need 15 to 20 more?
Yes.
That's on the low side. I mean, if that's what we can fit, that's great, but I think more picnic tables would be helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Umbrella, with the umbrellas,
Mhm.
those were very popular.
Do we have 2?
I think we have 3 or 4.
Do we only have 2 out? I feel like there's just 2 out. Yeah.
The new ones, there were only 2 new
2 new
ones.
ones, yeah.
We had a couple old ones, but I don't know that they all had umbrellas.
I don't think they did, I think only 2 of them
Yeah.
did.
That seemed like a long time ago.
There's a little bit of paint touch up we'll have to do in the spring. We'll open that. Everything looks like it came to the summer really well. With the exception of the wet well alarm going off a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Friday about 9 o'clock, I heard a strange beeping sound. I thought, that sounds familiar. Walk out front where you can see the light flashing.
oh my God.
So, yeah. Brian figured it out and just had babysit it for a little while while it rained, but it had taken on, you know, in a dry year, through cold months, it's still taken on a lot of groundwater in that system, so we pumped out about 6 feet of water out of that thing.
So I think for the next 4 agenda items, I think kind of I don't know if there's anything real specific other than
I
just
do have
registration.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
talk.
I just wondered if we, for the soccer program, we talked last meeting that in January, we were gonna send out a survey to see if people were interested in spring and fall, or just sticking with fall. And so I was just wondering if we knew when we planned to set that up.
We talked about 2 surveys. We talked about the end of the year survey.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was already planned, and then a separate soccer survey that we would push out to the school so that it would reach not just our previous registrants, right?
I don't remember that. I
Because
just
if we send
remembered that
it
it was gonna go
to
out.
who's in sports
Right.
engine, it won't reach the
The new,
kindergartners
right.
that are, not in,
Right,
but
right. I just remember us saying we were gonna push out in January, because registration opens in,
usually February 1st. We opened it, I think it was February 1st last year, January 31st.
Okay, so we need a short, sweet survey on spring and fall soccer, or just fall soccer?
correct?
There's your proof, Justin.
Somebody takes such.
Yeah, it's such a good,
Actually,
note taker.
this job is not as fun as it seems that it would not be.
Okay, easy enough. Steve, you wanna talk about, registrations a little bit? Where things are at?
Yeah,
Questions you might have?
I got a majority of it set up and everything like that. Christina, right?
Yep, Tina.
Should that really help with a lot of the information? Got the price figured out and got all those things. Right now it's in the process, I guess. I'm hoping by the end of this week I'll have the registration figured out so that you have to like submit it and then 5 days they give it to you back. I didn't know that part. So figured that out and I think so hopefully they'll get it by the end. I submitted it, what would it have been, Friday maybe? Thursday? Something like so. Hopefully I'll get it this week.
What do they do in that review process?
My understanding is they set up like how all the registration works, and then you can go in and tweak a few things, but otherwise you just tell them how it is, tell them what you want, and then they put the link on your sports engine, is my understanding.
So for the registration piece, you're kind of like filling in the blanks, and so
Correct.
it prompts you with questions. when do you want it open, you know, what do you wanna say, what do you want the little buttons to say when they go to select, like, I want 8 new girls or whatever. So that's the information he's putting in, and then they need to review it all, and they create it into like an actual working user face. And so then they'll send it to you to review it as a user, and then once you approve it, then we tell them when we want it to open.
Okay.
And you know, majority of it was just like, do you want to use the one you used last year? Well, so yeah, and then they sent it back, so basically they changed the date. The cost changed. It was $40 for fall, and it was $30 for spring, but Tina said 25. That's kind of what
So,
we went with.
our Lennox Park and Rec website says spring soccer 30. And they'll be given a t-shirt, but need their own ball, shin guards, and shoes.
And
They
she,
can-
So the
she
call
had
must
said
be,
was 25. Fall was 40.
but that's when you're getting the ball.
That's when you get the ball, correct?
Is the spring shorter?
It's just the ball, I think, is
Is
the
the ball
major
difference?
difference. Is my understanding. I think it
How
is a
much
little
the soccer
shorter.
ball?
I put in the dates. Right now, it would run from April 17th to May 15th. Basically, I took last year's corresponding and just put in the
Sure.
Saturdays.
So what we could do is if they, so they're in review of it right now, right? You
Correct.
said it. So when they send it back to you, all you have to say is, oh, I changed, we're gonna do $30 instead of 25. And they can easily change that if we wanna do 30. I think Tina had told me it was 30, but I think she was confused about, she couldn't remember if it was 25 or 30.
Well, I'm just going off the email she
Sure.
sent or whatever, and in there it said 25, so.
So is the
This-
registration that you sent only for soccer to them, or you sent,
You have to do them all separately, so this is just soccer.
and that's the only one that you
I was just trying to get that one done
Sure, for
first.
sure.
Yep.
And kind
Yeah.
of figure out the system.
That's the
And then
easiest one
the
to
other,
use.
right, and then the, right, and then the other ones
Yep.
get rolling on the, I don't understand like, I don't know, like the baseball, I know we won't need it for a long time, but if I can get it and get it back already, that's,
sure.
that's what I don't really understand there, why they have to like, I don't know.
Right.
right?
So I think the fee structure has come up before where it's unclear what we paid and when.
Right.
I haven't run this by the council and mayor yet, but we just set our rates by resolution last meeting. We could do an amended rate schedule the next meeting. That way we've actually got it recorded. Here's what it costs to do XYZ program. We already have it for the pool and for camping. Why not for our programs?
So I don't know if she's thinking about the late fee is 25,
Late fee
if
is
that's what
And that,
she's
it has
thinking.
that in here too, it
Okay.
says the fee is 25 and the late fee would be 25. And that was for spring, and it was 40 for the other. Yeah, it's an easy change if you want 30 or whatever, but.
So why don't we, I'll visit with Dawn or Denise in the morning and see what, we would have had those invoices come in last year. Or we might be able to see those on Sports Engine.
Well, I think if you ask them, they might be able to tell you where we set it last year. And then I think, Steve, once we have soccer rolling, baseball, softball, and t-ball, I think the biggest things that we'll need to change is just the policies, just making sure, you know, I don't know if we wanna put on there, please see our website for policies so that it's not in 2 different places, cause if we put it on registration and then we put it on our website, it doesn't automatically update, it's a copy and paste. So it might be better to link for specific policies and procedures, please see our website.
We don't put our policies and procedures on the website, but we, in this case, it's something that's very,
So
this is one of the more public areas where people interact with it, so it wouldn't be a bad idea.
it's not the document that we reviewed, but it's like when you go and click on like baseball,
The overview page.
the overview, so there are some rules in there and it talks about like the age requirements.
Oh, so
It
you
did on
can make
this,
sure that's consistent with the new stuff.
yeah.
Got it.
Well, and that's, like me just messing with it, there's a lot of those type of things, like where it said 30 here and 40 there, or it says
Yeah.
they get a t-shirt and a baseball, or, you know, a t-shirt and a hat, well, I never got a hat, or, you know,
It is.
like, there's a lot of
Yes.
those things that I know,
There's a lot of variations, so I think that's gonna be the biggest challenge this year when you're reviewing that, is looking at what do we actually want it to say, and maybe we don't wanna put all that on the registration form and just link them to the website and make sure the website's updated. The other thing too, last year, because they might get confused when you send it to them, we did combined, so we did baseball, softball, t-ball, all in one, and soccer, I think, all in one registration. But each one had its own start date, but it was essentially one, the parent logged in one time and could select multiple things.
Yeah.
I prefer it to be separate, like you're doing it, I think that's the best way to do it, but when you're building it, it's gonna be different, because they can't just pull it from last year, because it was combined.
Gotcha.
And so I think the way you're doing it is the best route. And if you want to, I sent an email too, but if you want to sit down and review some of this,
Yeah.
I mean, you've been doing a ton so far independently, so I'm sure you can figure it out yourself, but
You got from Travis and T or whatever.
yes,
helps.
that procedure manual, okay,
And
good.
I've just been like, well, I don't know how to do this, Google it on Sportsnet, usually I can find the answer.
That's kind of what I did, I watched those videos, or I would ask the chat, how do I do this, and they'd send me a link to a
They
video.
were pretty fast, yeah. Yep, and that was I didn't know how to change the amount, so I kept looking, and then finally I realized, oh, when you submit it, that's when you change that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Anything else with registration? I don't know if once you're done, Steve, once they send it back, they'll send you a link to view it as a user. You could maybe send it to one of us.
Right, yep.
Kelsey oversees soccer, so I think her and or I or Nate, somebody else, just another set of eyes to
Right.
look at it before it rolls out. I didn't call you the president this time.
I'm really good at it too.
Just so you have another set of eyes, so if something's
Just
not
to
right,
catch
it's like,
it.
we
Yep.
reviewed it, right, you know, then it's
For
not
sure.
just on you,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Looks like $30 to me for spring soccer. Looking at the financial summary and go to orders.
So when they send it back to you, Steve, they'll have a little, like a text box, please enter here anything you want to change, and just
Okay.
add that, please change the $30, and it's pretty fast.
Okay. I guess just and you had sent me that survey information, the Facebook account, am I supposed to do things on there, or no, or?
It
So-
hasn't been used much yet.
There's like I think the last individual created a park and rec one, but I don't know that it's public.
I don't think it is
I
yet.
don't know that there's been any activity, so I was just kind of using the swimming pool account for all things park and rec. So what you could do, I can add you as an admin on there, and then I could probably fall off of it, but you could change the name if you wanted to do a separate page, or I don't know what you think, Nate.
Well, I don't know yet. I mean,
Okay.
use what you have right now and do what you want to with it, but,
With the pool,
yeah, and Parks and Recs, but we've got between City Hall, the pool, Parks and Rec, Police Department, and Library, 5 different Facebook accounts in the city. And I need to take a look at whatever that makes sense or not. So for now, I'm not changing anything, but in the future, it's possible.
I do know, like personally, I looked at the pool one a lot, like for dates and when things changed. And same with like, before I was on the board or whatever, knowing like if the softball field or baseball fields were gonna be closed. Like I looked, but I guess if the city's putting it on their Facebook pages, so it's so,
But just good, it's all managed essentially the same way.
yeah,
You know,
so.
I think the pool one specifically is nice. I'm not saying we can't change the name, but I think for a lot of people out of town, they search for that.
Yeah.
Like when they're trying to come to town, they search
Right.
for Lennox Pool to find the hours,
Yeah.
and the address and all of that.
Yep.
But if you changed it to Park and Rec, we would just make sure when you search, it has
It
the,
would include that somehow.
I don't know how to do the hashtag, but if you embed it in there, then it'll pull up on search.
And then I guess as far as t-shirts and things, she said, Tina said Dakota
Sports.
Dakota Sports or Dakota Lettering or something like that. And you had mentioned somewhere else, right? Or is that the place you were talking
I think Dobby's is, well, Dobby's we got half of maybe.
Dobby's is where we get
The
all the
equipment,
baseball,
yeah.
softball.
I think Dakota, is it Dakota?
It says Dakota Lettering.
Dakota Lettering is in the back of Dakota, so it's in the back of Dakota Sports. It's another branch there.
That's like west of,
And that's not Dobby's.
southwest of Shields.
Like the old, you know where the pizzeria is?
Yeah, no, yeah, I know Dakota Sports.
Okay, if you just go in the front door of Dakota Sports.
Right. And then, so for soccer you order from there, baseball you order for somewhere else?
Must be.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
one year we ordered from some other place for a big T-ball and
Did Quentin come?
Last year.
yeah,
had all the numbers fall.
so,
Yeah. I know, I went back on.
Was that last year or the year before? That's the year
It was the
before.
year before.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it was 2 years ago.
Throw
It
that-
wasn't
throw
COVID
that in
year.
the binder.
that was the place on
It
12,
was too good.
Yeah, it was CF.
like before, yeah,
I went
before
there.
Q1.
I went there. It's awesome. I don't know, yeah, why?
Well, I was just, do you wanna keep it consistent or bounce back and forth, I guess?
I
is my-
think it would be best to keep it consistent. It hasn't really been consistent. I think when it's just the basic t-shirt like we do for
Right.
t-ball and soccer, we're just kind of a hodgepodge of wherever.
Okay.
The uniforms specifically, I have to ask Jason Foss, but that would be one thing, like the baseball uniforms, they get the same ones every year so that they could cycle them out. So that we want to maybe stay the same, but if you find a vendor that you really like, I think we need to just go to one place.
Okay.
The one thing with Dobby's is I know they've donated a bunch of equipment to our program, like bags and
So
That
you
might
can
be-
order stuff, like shirts and stuff through there?
At Dobby's.
I was thinking they were only,
Like big, they do all the Big Sioux basketballs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, they do really good work,
nice.
in my
Still
opinion.
Dobby's?
It's right on 41st Street, right next to Hagel's Western Tire.
Oh, okay. Okay, I don't like that.
I'll ask Foss where we've gotten.
Dobby's.
It was Dobby's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides the one year when they all
Fell
fell
off
off.
the council. Just contact me or Denise or John up front for a PO.
Okay.
We can sign up.
The one that fell off was my choice. I'll admit it.
Fuck yeah.
They were cheaper though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Save the city.
Better later, each
Shocker.
Remember one year ago?
We got a refund of half of it. Thanks to Chad, he called and
After going down,
I was gonna let it go and Chad called. and
after
threw
going
it.
down there 3 times to get kids on my team 3 attached, we had a conversation about financial compensation. It's on my side.
So.
I guess, yeah, other than that, I don't have much.
Okay.
Any other questions, I guess, just trying to figure out that sports engine, basically.
And kind of like I said in the email, really this month and probably into the first week of February, registration focus and sports engines learning that.
Right.
I think is really the most important, and then kind of getting into, I mean, starting to look at places to get jerseys is great.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's
I
kind
just
of the
did-
next.
That was
yeah.
one of the things that was like, he said this, he did that.
Yeah.
I would prefer, one spot.
Yeah.
Have you gotten out and done inventory of equipment to see what all we have?
Just got off keys tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably, if the weather's decent after school, I'll do a little bit each day, kind of thing.
Yeah, if you want to go down, want help, just give me a call.
Okay.
I told him to
There's
focus
stuff
on
in the park
registrations,
shop
and
and
that's
in
my
the
fault.
concession stand, we've got to get both of those figured out.
The what?
The new concession stand and the farm shop, both have certain pieces of equipment, and there's, we need to consolidate.
Right.
What I think we need to do is, get all that shit in one spot. Just go through it.
Yeah, and that's what.
And figure out what makes sense to keep down there and
Stuff
stuff.
everywhere. So I think this weekend, like now, for the holidays, I'm gonna just come and,
But I think we got like 5 or 6 of us together. I think it was like me and Steeler and Ike, just, we down there, there was a bunch of us down there. We just went down and just put everything we had and then just stuffed it all in the, you know, so every bag had a gas mask and stuff. And made sure we
I
had
know,
it.
yeah, we could run down there. I think we got one in the shop station. I draw your attention to the policy procedures.
and I can't even call it to order or gavel anybody because it's not an official meeting. Do we need to talk about a ninth board member? No? Crickets?
No,
Do we need an odd number?
you do not. Has to be, if ever right, has to be more than 5 and no more than 9. It can be anything in between.
And if Stacy wants to, or Mayor Duchesne wants to appoint somebody, she can do so at her leisure and take it to the council, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussions on anything?
I guess when do they start hiring pool?
I just put it on the draft agenda for January 25 to get lifeguards, and we're gonna look at this pool manager position and see if we should do that instead of how we did last year.
Can we-
seasonal groundskeepers, so.
Can we put in, I don't know what this sounds like, but an opening for umpires, so we at least have our own roster?
Yeah, we have a list somewhere.
I know, but does it exist?
Well,
I think it was
it's
on the
just-
wall in that office. It's on the wall.
Did you always do that?
I put together a list one year, Floss and I did, of about 30 names, and it might be outdated.
Most of them are high school kids.
Is it something we could put in like high school?
So,
Most of those toys, I think that's just.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's a lot.
they didn't let us put all kinds of stuff up at the school last year, so. I've already started a conversation with a few lifeguards, for this year, so hopefully we'll have a number of returning ones.
How many lifeguards do we want?
Oh, yeah. We're not gonna do what we did last year.
How many do we have?
We had a lot of lifeguards, but we also had, those pool attendants.
Right.
I don't think we're gonna go that route this year. In terms of lifeguards, I think we got enough, and I'm fine having a bunch as long as you have a good sense for who wants what hours,
Right.
you know, and who needs to leave when as we get to August. Those
Right.
last 2 weeks were very difficult to staff.
Sure.
So, we'll have to be looking at how we do that more effectively this year. We can easily add umpires to that list.
Do you wanna talk to the school about the soccer field? You had mentioned the part they fenced off now is where you did spring soccer, correct?
I'll talk to the
Okay.
superintendent.
We have not ever done a spring soccer though, right? Because we
Not
were
there.
gonna do it last year and then COVID.
Yep.
Okay.
It's not a formal meeting, so you have side conversations.
What?
Talking the COVID vaccine.
So,
Do we wanna get into a debate tonight?
Yeah. Nope, we have homes to do, places to go.
Alright, are we, anything else?
I have,
Steve, will you just let me know if you have questions or about
Yep.
anybody? No. Do you have cell phone numbers? That's something.
I think I have yours,
mine,
I think yours.
Okay.
What,
Okay.
well, you probably don't want to say
can
that.
everybody just shoot
Just say
your,
on
What's your
YouTube.
cell phone number?
everybody just email me your cell numbers and I can get them
Yeah.
all set up for, Steve, contact card or something.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then, one thing for discussion, I don't think we have to come to any decision or anything, but, what would the park board like to hear from Steve on monthly? I mean, we've not had a formal process for this reporting before, but I think we should at least have something every month. And I think we can use the same report for the council, I don't think we need to write 2 reports. But put some thought into, what you would like to see in those reports, coming forward. In my mind, it's really a status check.
Just an update.
Right.
But, as we get into the summer, there's a lot more, you can put a lot more information in there, that may be useful, maybe not, so.
Did we, did we get some kind of a description information or list or procedures for softball? Was that requested?
I have some of it, I do not have all of it.
Because I think that would be really valuable. I don't know that anybody on this board had as much knowledge.
I did reach out to a couple people I know that have kids in softball to ask for ideas of people who would be maybe willing to serve on like that baseball softball subcommittee. I'm
Yeah.
just waiting to get some names back. I mean, it was Melinda Stein is who I called. I know she's
Yeah.
got kids in it. She's got some things going on in her personal life, but she was gonna think about it with that.
Because I think the rest of it, I mean, most of us together kind of know the process, but softball is one that, for myself anyway, other than coaching it, I don't know the coaches' names that are communicated with from the other teams and the league rules and all of that.
Doesn't Clinton have any?
Yeah, I think some of it. I think he has somewhat of an idea.
Is it the Southeastern League? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So we were previously in SEPSA, and
Right.
then just this last year moved to the Southeastern League.
Okay.
And so I think even, getting a list of contacts,
How did the survey come back on the Southeastern League? I mean, were people happy with how it went?
I don't think we asked specifically how we're happy with that. We've only got 42 responses on the survey from last year, so,
And it didn't say much.
no.
I don't think I filled it out.
So good numbers, huh?
I didn't
Yeah.
fill it out either.
It is still open, I haven't closed it yet.
I'll make my husband do it.
Will that be shared with us?
Yeah, I think for the February meetings, but I would like to see more responses before.
Yeah, that's fine, I was just curious if,
So I don't know,
just to
probably
see
have
if
to
we
push
can
it
improve
on
on it.
social again and see what we find. I'm sure there are a number of people that haven't completed it. At the same time, there's some who completed it as an aggregate for all their kids and some that wanted to do it separately for each of their kids.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know, I don't know for sure if you're getting 4 kids on one of those or one, but I'm sure we can get more responses.
You prefer separate if they're in separate things, correct? But if you had one in softball, one in baseball, one in t-ball, you'd prefer
I would prefer
three?
that you do it differently for each one, because the experience for each one is gonna be different.
For sure.
Based on program, based on competition, based on coaching, those things.
Any problems on them?
Nothing shocking. Yeah, a lot of feedback about this.
What, did you fill out the one for Bennett? That's not for me.
Not a,
I struggled. Threw the balls in my kid, kept throwing curveballs.
I think there was a few about, something about coaching or, I can't remember.
I think the most complicated feedback is probably on the coaching. Good, bad, or otherwise.
Can you respond back to those people and say that they volunteered yet?
The survey does ask if you will volunteer, so I can't break that down individually to find out
Be nice if you
how
could,
many have.
push back and say,
There are signs at the park that say that.
Yes,
I
there are also speed zones and other signs around town. Where you can park, where you can't park. Yeah.
Nate, do you think, just talking about kind of learning softball, do you think it would be valuable to have a written document that we can all contribute to that kind of lists each month what some things Steve could work on?
Yes, I would, ideally, coming out of this year, I would like to have a program calendar as well, not just policies and procedures, but here's what needs to be done each month. And I think part of that needs to be experiential, and, going through it, well, I did this way this year, but I learned that I probably should have done it at this point instead,
Would it make sense to let Steve get a year in and then put it together then?
I think to make notes throughout this year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, just
Right, a
sort of
working
planner.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I guess as far as soccer, I would have preferred to have it done by now and put it out, because like, for example, I looked at T's, and T's starts, I think tomorrow and goes to February.
Does it really?
When when they start, like, their first practices are?
Well, like for ours, they don't have assigned practices. The practices are during the actual scheduled time on Saturday. For
But about
soccer.
tees.
Correct. Well, that's what ours, it says ours is.
No, but like when you were looking at tees, did they say when practice started? With registration? Registration
It
fees?
just starts
Like they did with
it's right around our time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just curious how much of a, you know, if the time frame
Correct.
matched up, so we could, I mean, if it's ready, absolutely, we can open it earlier. I think because last year it was all looped together, we opened it all at once.
Right.
But it makes sense to have soccer earlier because it ends, the registration ends earlier. So we ended it March 1st, where baseball, softball, t-ball ended March 15th. So it would make sense to, and those dates can change.
Right.
Those were just
Yep.
soft dates that we threw out there, that whatever you're thinking, you know, is to have enough time to order shirts and
Right.
roster teams, et cetera, get coaches prepared, all of that. So if soccer's ready and you wanna open it next week, I mean, I think that's fine.
I mean, you maybe run it.
I looked at you, but you weren't looking, so executive decision.
No,
We should run it by your leader.
Soccer czar.
You know, soccer's are. The soccer program is becoming more and more dictatorial.
Yes, I agree, Brittany.
And then we could even end it sooner, and then if we didn't have the numbers, reopen it, you know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, if Kelsey's okay with it, if she
I'm
approves.
totally fine.
We can't vote in this meeting anyway.
We don't even know if we're having spring soccer yet, right? Or
This is
I feel confident that we'll have spring.
so then do you even wanna send a survey out?
Do I want to? Not necessarily.
Then
but,
let's not.
I mean,
Do we have to have a meeting in order to, like, vote on that, I mean?
It was voted on in the last meeting to send the survey, so can we just redact that?
was it really?
It is on page 2.
Was it advising me to send surveys?
Mr. Vanderplatz will send out a survey for soccer.
Okay.
Send it out, do you like soccer?
Unanimously approved.
I was hoping maybe it was the part where it advises Mr. Vanderplatz.
Well, I'm not that good at taking notes, I'm not that good at taking notes. It could have easily been that.
The bottom line, when we, I mean, we'll send a survey out. It doesn't take long to do it, and it's not a problem.
It does say
But
soccer
really
survey
what-
will likely go out sometime in January.
Well, there you go.
There's your gray area.
You know, if people don't register, that's the meat of the bone, right? I mean, that tells us if people are interested or not. And I think given the interest in fall soccer, given how well the entire summer and fall programs went, both here, and I had a great experience in T with their program last fall. I see no reason not to. I think that most of the towns are going to be doing it, so.
How does T split up their kids for soccer? Is it just like we do it? But I mean, for age group wise, because don't we have anywhere from like kindergarten to
Ours
second
is
grade?
just K-2, and it's all just like, some kindergarten, some first, some second.
But is that how T does it as well? I mean, would it make sense?
Tees is bigger though.
There's a
Just
change.
wondering if it makes sense just to partner with T.
Oh,
You know, we have 1 or 2 games here where you can send the rest of them up there so we can play some different kids.
I don't think there's any reason not to.
not too well.
Not to partner. I think the goal of having the K through 2 program was to start building for a program for kids of a older age later on. There wasn't enough interest at the same that in the upper age. I know Keegan's class, there were only 2 kids from Lennox playing T soccer in his grade basketball. So you can't do much with that.
Right.
But at K through 2, you can get enough kids, and I think it's enough of a skill building age that you don't need to roster a whole team. You know.
And they, like, it's not like you're playing the same team, there was enough that I don't know that we played with the same team twice.
We didn't.
I didn't know.
It's a big program. I mean, and you know, you're playing T teams, you're playing 2 falls teams, so it's not just a T program.
And I meant in Lennox, like K through 2, I think there was enough that our
Oh,
team
really?
didn't,
Yeah, I don't think we played the same.
right,
How many weeks was it?
5?
5 or 6,
Usually
yeah.
5 or 6, yeah. Usually Easter fell in there, so maybe it was 5.
I'm only talking
Yes,
fall.
Fall.
I've never.
Well, so it is, because this again says junior kindergarten through second grade.
Yes, and there was junior kindergarten,
So
that's
it's
correct,
junior
yes,
kindergarten, not kindergarten.
correct.
Is there an age cutoff?
There was, I don't think so, I think it's just
Junior kindergarten has to be kindergarten age, they're just
Yeah.
kindergarten.
Summer.
How about a second grader that went to junior kindergarten? Really
It's gonna be, right, and that's it.
I don't know.
I mean, that's true, we just
It
don't
is
have
very
the
true.
same issues in soccer as we do baseball and t-ball.
But there are
That's what I.
design.
There is not, like, people in soccer, they just are like, cool,
Okay.
we're on a team.
Well, that's,
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
That's why my kids only played 1 year.
I will say my experience with spring soccer is terrible. Like, I think Griffin did it 3 years, and I think literally we only had maybe 5 games because it was raining,
Yes.
it was cold, there was 2. So that's my. I would vote not to increase it just because of that, and that way you're not dealing with,
Right.
you get 3 games, 20.
I think that's
Oh,
what
right.
Kelsey's point was with the survey, like, COVID aside, do we want a spring soccer program because it gets canceled so much
Right.
and it's wet and all that?
Yeah. I'd like.
But we can see where the numbers are at.
Correct. And Steve, if you have questions too on Sports Engine that you're having trouble figuring out, I mean, you can start with me, but Travis and T has said, any questions, absolutely, you can call him. No, and I know him kind of from living in T.
Right.
Oh, okay. I think the biggest issue is gonna be the calendar. That was, we never really got that fully figured out last year.
I'll link the.
How to connect it to, so like, if Chris is a coach and he goes on to his personal coach account and the games that are listed there weren't connecting with the master calendar. And so if you added a game on the master calendar, sometimes it connected and sometimes it was just a mess.
That's
So,
why I got a text 5 minutes before a game.
Correct.
I tried to do
so
that.
some of that, yeah, just the whole IT piece behind that, I don't know, we just never really figured it out. So if you wanna become an expert at that.
It's something with that tag,
The tag, yes, you have to have the tag there,
but it never goes to the app.
yeah, but it doesn't connect with the app and it should.
But even if you try to do something through the app, it doesn't go to the site.
Really?
It doesn't on your app, and all my parents will get it, but it'll show up on a regular thing, yeah.
So like if I wanna schedule on the
Right,
field he's on, I can't see that he's
Right,
there.
because it went to my parents, and they can't tell it out of there.
Gotcha.
So I
A
think,
couple times, we'd all show up like, what the heck?
so if you would even wanna, I mean, communicate with him or sit with him or whatever, when you get to the point of scheduling and getting it on the calendar and just, how do they do it, does it work?
Right.
I think that would be really valuable, and that's probably, I mean, other than soccer, I would say for baseball, softball, we're looking at March
Field.
to kind of start some of that, or end of February, start looking at it at least.
When will registration close for baseball?
It was March 15th, but we could do earlier if we felt like we needed more time, because I mean, they start in March sometimes, don't they? April for sure.
No, isn't it May?
Thank God, not my kids.
Baseball starts in April. They start practicing, don't you guys start in April?
High school.
High school.
High school.
No.
We never started that early, it's only raining. It feels nice too.
It's still snowing.
I feel like the middle of May.
Well, and that's.
There's
what
some
I'm
pretty
saying.
aggressive coaches that have started in April, and I feel like you're one of them, Jack.
As a program, we need to put an official practice start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's happened to me before, where somebody has, like, somebody on a brother on a 12U team, they've been practicing, so now these people think that their T-ball kids need to be practicing in April.
And I would agree with that.
And their travel team does that.
Aren't like tryouts typically the middle of May?
Tryouts are usually in June.
I think we can skip that to the year before.
You can't do it the year before.
You missed,
They
you
were
gonna be the
missed
day
3
that-
months of
They
tournaments.
were gonna be the day
Too
that
much time with the state
Boy
tournaments
Scouts
every
went
year.
to,
Yeah.
and that was in
They've
May.
been the third week of May
Yes,
for a
they were.
while.
Cause it was the same week Boy Scouts were gonna go to the zoo in Omaha, and that was in May.
It was the third week of May this year, and then it got pushed because of COVID.
This was the first year we moved it up.
Oh, okay, I know
But it
it
was
was
moved
May
up for
last
a
year.
reason, and was it because the state needed the roster?
No. It's because people wanted to start going down the tournaments.
Well, it's,
I just get the other thing, but I know what you mean. I just don't think you can do it.
I get the problem with someone moves in and stuff like that too, is a problem, I don't know what else to do.
It was gonna be May 16th of 2020 this past year.
I think we need to set a date, we need to get it out there at least 3 months in advance, because in the past, it's been weeks in advance, and that's it, and parents don't
And
know.
then they can't make it work there
Right.
or something.
What, grade levels have tryouts or what?
10U, 12U, 14U, that's all.
10U and up?
Yeah.
But we don't do any of this, the junior legion or legion stuff, we just have 14U and below.
It's just 10, 12, and
14.
Okay.
Just baseball, I mean,
Softball has some rules about ASA rosters and this stuff.
so we're gonna play so many games.
if they wanted to do a tournament team, they'd have to have the roster set before January 1.
And then play so
Oh,
many
yeah.
games together or something too.
So who, do the coaches just get together and do that, or is it?
We usually get the coaches all together and try to get something that works, and you do that, and then get your practice schedule. I mean, for the tryouts.
Yeah.
Chad usually gets a lot of
Our
guys.
amateur team.
Try to get people that aren't affiliated with it.
We just try to get some people that
Well,
they
that's
can't
the
say,
outside.
Riley knows
You know
these.
these people. Yeah.
Which, I mean, everyone kind of knows everybody.
Right, correct.
At
Do
least
they
they
just do that on a Saturday, or?
Yeah, just I think we start at like 9, go
Like,
9, 10, and
And then each age group is like a 2-hour block or an hour block or whatever it is.
Okay.
Chad kind of ran the tryouts this last year, and so he'd be the best resource, and we get judges from out of town that are, or somebody that's not connected or doesn't have kids. We do have some rules on that, they can't have a kid in the program, there's a few other rules for judges.
Nope, yeah.
But he's probably the best point of contact to know how to run the day and that kind of stuff. Anything else?
It's 8 o'clock.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Non-meeting, non-meeting,
Thank you.
non-meeting
I
conversation.
am